Fermín Buitrago. This is my proposal for assessment. This is my last task for evaluation and evaluation of English. This proposal is called IDOL, that means Integral Dynamic Learning Evaluation. So, welcome. Let's talk about the problem. Nowadays, we need to stop working and to promote quantitative achievements in order to try to promote the human beings, their skills, their abilities, their knowledge level, their leadership and autonomy, a reality. Most of the secondary education institutions still keep doing the same old thing, and that is evidenced in the results of external evaluations and the percentage of students that could enter to the university to continue the process to take advantage of superior education. Moreover, the level of permanence in the university is low because of problems like reading comprehension, lack of reading habit, bad use of technological tools, bad preparation in different areas, especially in foreign language. That is my subject. This is the evidence of the continuing traditional methodologies in evaluation facing new challenges. The development of critical thinking must contribute to the perspective of construction and knowledge, both of them related to the student's context that helps to develop all the time, almost all the time, curiosity, imagination, and creativity, which are important fields to create new knowledge. Although study plans have been changed during the last decades using foreign and wasted patterns, foreign patterns, they are still the same old fruitless plans that didn't help students to develop real abilities and skills, but only it keeps being the same repetition of the same old contents that we knew. They don't know how to analyze and interpret a text, how to contextualize the knowledge they are getting, and how to really solve uh, many problems. The percentage of his indicator is pretty low. Let's talk about vision. The most important skill that our students and even us as teachers need to develop our leadership to be in search of a radical change in their communities, autonomy to be responsible of their process in a coherent and cohesive way, and vocation to face life not only as the road to get material things, but self-realization, values to bring an ethical purpose to their lives and the things they do, technology and communication to take advantage of the tools and strategies that they can use to develop new knowledge. And finally, integrality to defend the relation between human being, environment, and technological development. This perspective must be changed by the way students contextualize all these elements in their lives, their families, their little communities, their cities, and so on. The more students identify their context needs and search for solutions, the most knowledge is really apprehended and enjoyed. Other perspective keep being out of turn. Uh, that's all for this part. So of this proposal. This proposal pretends to be the solution of the problem stated at the beginning. So I can consider that these are the most important goals I want to get with it. First, to promote the human beings, their skills, their abilities, their knowledge level, and their leadership and autonomy. contextual values that they need to develop all of the time. To improve results of the internal and external institutional evaluations. It is a real necessity nowadays because it is important to try to get hike this level. To improve and link more coherently secondary and university education process because these processes are uh, not linked nowadays, and that's one of the parts of the problem, one of the situation of this actual crisis in education. um, the other one is to develop critical thinking to contribute to the perspective of construction and knowledge, both of them related to the student's context that helps to develop curiosity, imagination, creativity, innovation, and many other things which are important to create new knowledge. This kind of proposal could bring us mm, getting students' own satisfaction, getting students autonomy and leadership, creating authentic leaders for the community in order to take up life project that get them into the service to the community. That is very important. Students to be able to really solve real problems in their communities and context, rescuing values and ethics in order for all of us to try to avoid corruption and other bad situations that we're living nowadays. And the last one is students to be able to enjoy their lives integrally, not only some parts divided and isolated from the others, but all of the environments join in only one integrality that it's very important to to experience for us as human beings. That some success criteria that I could bring in this proposal are population. The assessment is applicable to the different population, but always taking into account the context in which it is going to be implemented. It is not general in a strict sense. It is more flexible according to the community. I mean, it is very important to contextualize the population in which is going to be implemented in order for being really successful. Second situation is time. It is implemented in both long-term periods, a school year, and short-term period, every bimester or trimester, having in mind the different institutions, approaches, and styles. Next one is context, as it is. Evaluating community needs, students' needs, and both interest is a guarantee of access the real goals of the contest. It is important to take into account that assessment is projected to the community that it's going to be assessed, not to every community. So in from my viewpoint, it is very important to identify, characterize, diagnose, and have in mind the real characteristics of these communities. Nations to take into account in this process of assessment. Some things to take into account when selecting an evaluation method are the information that is going to be needed to make decisions. Second, the information can feasibly be collected and analyzed in order to be really coherent with the context that it is going to be used. Number three, how accurate will the information be? And the last part is, will the information be credible to top the institution head and the administratives? So the evaluation that I take into account are active student involvement. We need to for we don't have to forget. We need to remember all of the time that student is the protagonist of the process. We are not. Knowledge is not. Is the student that is going to be taken into account in order for them to be really motivated and stimulated to have a very good process. Second, skilled teacher direction. We as teacher, we need to have some experience and, and organization and formation about skills that we need to make a real good process in assessment and evaluation. We need to take into account all of the information that we are trying to live here in order to do it in the best way we can. Constructive. It is not a thing we just oblige to the others to follow. It is important to negotiate all of the elements that we are going to take into account to do this process. Purpose driven. If you don't have a real purpose, um, a real goal to get, that is the interest of the student to try to improve day by day in order to do their best and try to get a very good level in the future. If this is not the purpose, you are wasting your time. And the last one, continuous making. This process of evaluation is not just a part of all the process of the whole process. This is this is concomitant with the process. It is a situation parallel to the rest of the process. So it is important to take into account. We need to have in mind that we need hidden curriculum, all of the things that we couldn't experience directly, all of the experiences and anecdotes and knowledge that the student brings from their homes and from the communities, and we have to take this into account. Virtual institution platform. This assessing this kind of assessing is important because it must be very interactive. So we need to have a clear that a virtual platform is necessary. It's basic. Communication technologies. It is the same situation. We need to try to link parents, teachers, students, institution in order to get a very coherent and cohesive procedure and strategy. Technological devices. It is a model where we couldn't avoid try to using all of the all of the elements that technology has brought us and given us. So it is important to try to take advantage of all of them. And the last one is innovative physical facilities. The traditional classrooms are very uncomfortable and boring nowadays. We need to try to organize new spaces, new places to try to interchange knowledge, so students will be interested again in this process. These kind of facilities are wasted, are boring for them, so they are not so stimulated to do what they want to do. The qualitative approach that I am going to take advantage of. Mm, First of all, to condense raw textual data into a brief summary format. that it is very important for us. Second, to establish clear links between the evaluation or research objectives and the summary findings derived from the raw data, not only to have it but try to use it in a very practical way. Third, to develop a framework of the underlying structure of experiences or processes that are evident in the raw data. And the last part is the general inductive approach provides an easily used and systematic set of procedures for analyzing qualitative data that can produce reliable and valid findings. Coherent, we need to organize our classes with a new perspective, some call task-based approach. So it is important to try to let them exercise all of the critical thinking, the solve problem, in order for them to improve their ways. A task-based approach offers an alternative for language teachers. In a task-based lesson, the teacher doesn't predetermine what language will be studied. The lesson is based around the completion of a central task, and the language studied is determined by what happens as the students complete it. The lesson follows certain stages. For example, a pre-task, a task, a planning, a report, and analysis. As Vivanco said in the photocopies, practice by means of the task-based approach, students may become autonomous learners. For Prabhu, constructing a bag of communicative problem-based activities is a starting point to develop conversational behavior. In Corder's opinion, language learning does not keep relation with innate abilities, but with motivation and attitude. We believe that communicative learning is connected with the affective bond towards the subject of study, but also with the linguistic skills every learner has. So that's why I think that the most important thing right here from all of this information is task-based approach, because it is the compromise of the student to try to be more autonomous and more integral in order to face these kind of responsibilities. In technology, the part that I am going to take into account is advancements in assessment technology can do a lot of to address the burdens of time and cost. Simulation-based assessment, such as Riversity, are able to assess student understanding of complex problems using multiple choice formats that are automatically scored. That is one of the elements of this proposal. It must be automatic. It can be. We can try to avoid the space between the presentation of the evaluation and the presentation of the scores, because many times this space is filled with a subjective point of view uh, of the teacher. So it is very uncomfortable for students to try to wait for these results. It is important for them to know the real results almost instantly. Enright and McCloskey in 1988 have designed what is known as integrated language teaching, a teaching model for second language learners based on practical principles we try to apply. For example, first of all, language is not a different parts, but it is a system formed by different items that it is very strong and very coherent when it is studied as a system, as a whole. Excuse me. The best way to learn a language is by using it. So practice is better than theory. Everyday language is most useful to students in their learning and development. It depends on the way you are going to create your study plan. Some study plans are incoherent, talking about the context they are used in. Students develop their second language skills at the same time, not first one and then the other, but the four linguistic skills must be developed at the same time. When learning a language, students use linguistic and non-linguistic resources as much as their acquired knowledge and previous experience of the world. So it is important to have in mind that a language is a living being as human beings, so it is important to try to do it in the most natural way. Mm, Foreign language and literacy is developed by using it in very different situations, environments with many different speakers and listeners, and for many purposes. So you don't have to be close when you are learning these kind of things, but you have to take into account to be open-minded and open to different strategies. The last one, a comfortable and relaxing atmosphere, the one which values the transmission of meaning more than form, is the adequate setting to develop language and literacy. It is important to explore virtual environments because many times they are more vivid, more living, more easy to connect to other people that could give us many apart. This is one of the most important topics that I take into account in this proposal. Through the use of formative assessment, teachers learn how to use information about individual students, reading skill, for example, to alter their approach to the content of instruction. It is important that we have to take into account that it is not the things they are learned. It is more important the way they are doing, the motivation that they have to do it, mm, the way they try to explore their own styles, and so on. So it is more important to try to teach the student the way they could learn to learn. So that's my most important thing right here. Purposes. There has always been a debate concerning English for specific purposes and general English. This proposal is good for both of these trends, these approaches, because we don't need only to teach students what the language is, but what can you do with this language? And it is important for them to try to analyze, to to be interested, to be motivated, to be stimulated, to understand the way English is used in all of the process of their lives. There are two important things that I took into account. Formative evaluations that provide the information on the improving of a product or a process. And the second one is the summative evaluation that provide the information of short-term effectiveness or long-term impact to decide the adoption of a product or a process. So that's why I have in mind these two concepts in this proposal. All of this background, the last part is the explanation of the format that we take into account to organize this proposal. First of all, the format is implemented through virtual environment. So teachers, students, parents, and the other members of the community can consult the progress of every student day by day, not in certain moments, but all of the time. Second, topics and feedback are clearly expressed. It helps all members of the community to recognize the different processes made through these qualitative items. Number three, individual, partial, and total grades are explicit, but it is not only the summative aspect of the evaluation. These grades can improve according to the activities that students want to present to get them better. I mean, this process is always open in order for students to motivate themselves to present activities to improve their grades and improve their level of knowledge. It is very important for this kind of evaluation proposal. Next one, you can visit as a student, you can visit web pages, blogs, or other different sources in order to improve performance and goals. So it makes it a very practical and constant improving uh, method and strategy. Number five, assessment is used more than evaluation. Dialogue is constant. Opportunities to improve are most constantly allowed. Feedback is constant. You can have the opportunity to ask and answer some doubts and situations that you don't have clear. So it is very important for this type of evaluation. It is not an evaluation that is closed, but it is always open in order to negotiate and try to get a real improvement by part of the student. Number six, this format can be used not only for academical purposes, but for different specific English approaches. Uh, Moreover, you can use this kind of evaluation in every area of the knowledge that you want because it saves time to teachers, it gives more opportunities to students, it helps students to really know what is the percentage of the process that they are taking into account and the ways they can improve all the limitations and weaknesses that they have. Last part is linguistic skills are used integrally and concomitantly. As I said before, you don't have to evaluate every language skill separate, but you can do it in a very integral way. But trying to let students know what is the limitation or the weakness that he or she could have on this aspect. Thank you.